Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Canine Connection podcast. Today, Lori and I are incredibly excited to have Katelyn with us of Katalyst Kennels. I'm going to give you an informal intro. I met Katelyn through Lori because Lori has a puppy from Katelyn, and Katelyn lives close to Lori, which if that happened to me, I would probably own 30 dogs, but thank God she does not live close to me. And I knew that she breeds dogs for work, right? For search and rescue, sniffy type, real life jobs. And that's kind of the lines Zesty is from. And anyway, I'm always just interested in dogs and working dogs and looking at dogs and looking at puppies. So I had the opportunity a couple of times to head on over to her place, which is amazing. She has a boarding kennel, she has training classes, but she has a phenomenal breeding program. I've seen quite a number of litters over the years, and she has a phenomenal setup. And I got to meet some of her puppies, and more importantly, I got to talk to her because I just find breeders absolutely fascinating. And I'm going to let her tell you about a breeding program she's doing for the government because it's super interesting, and I found that really fascinating. And then more recently, I think we mentioned in an earlier episode that on my way to the New Hampshire Regional, I went up there, met Lori, and we stopped at Katelyn's home actually, and we looked at some puppies. And we talked about how we decided how we decided on Salty for Lori.
How you decided on Salty.
Yeah. And
we just had to throw Salty in there.
We had to. And Katelyn and I talked about him a little bit, and I was like, oh, this is so good. We're going to go totally down in the weeds about puppies and picking performance puppies and all things puppies, yay, puppies.
Yeah.
So I think the first thing I think we should start with is, because I think it's super fascinating, is Katelyn telling us about this program she's doing with raising puppies for the government, which is the worst way of explaining it. So therefore, she's going to explain it.
Oh, that sums it up. So yeah, thank you guys for having me on. I'm Kate Graham. I own Katalyst Kennels. We're based out of Litchfield, Connecticut. And so we do have a pet side to the business where we do boarding, some day school stuff, training stuff, nose work classes. And then we also have our working dog side of the business. And that's really where I had started things and is our overall and main goal. So within our breeding program, we raise and train single purpose detection dogs. So typically narcotics, explosives, or tracking dogs. Some that go on to different careers too. So different subsets, electronics or human remains or other search and rescue avenues. And so we breed specifically for those jobs. And then we keep a good number of dogs back each year to raise up through the kind of green dog development and get them ready and prepped for those careers. So within that breeding program, that's been going on a little over 10 years now.
Can I just interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Because this is what I find fascinating. Well, you don't have to answer this question, but how old are you?
I'm 31.
Yeah, you're so young.
So
And
young.
you've been doing
I don't
this
always feel
10
it.
years. And
Yes.
to me,
So
that's amazing. I love when women start businesses, but no, I really do. I get super excited about that because, owning a business, starting a business, it's very hard. But
it is.
you're so young and you've
Yeah.
been doing it already for so long. And to me, that's so amazing.
And Katelyn and her husband are raising a family to boot with a youngster on tow, right, Kate? So there's an additional layer of busy work.
So much life. Exactly. And so, and all of that just comes from the dog world being such a cool place because I grew up showing dogs. So I grew up I was so lucky to have a neighbor growing up who bred Gordon setters and had all of these fancy like Westminster group winning Gordon setters. And so she would take me along and took me under her wing to do all kinds of things. And I grew up in an area where I was so lucky to have a training facility nearby that let me do agility classes and rally and obedience and all of that. But I grew up in a boarding kennel and I started working there from well before I could drive. And my mom would drive me back and forth to the kennel every day for work. And it was just such a good way to grow up. And the dog world is such a welcoming place. For young people, for the most part, there's a lot of people who want to support juniors and want to support young people in the sports. So that was awesome. And that really gave me a huge leg up, and then started doing search and rescue dogs when I was about 19. I joined the first search and rescue team I was on. And again, just very lucky to have good people, good support that helped kind of get me to where I am now and make a lot of the connections that have been important for where I am now.
Yeah.
So that helped a ton with that. And I ended up actually going through a 4-year degree program that was in animal science with a canine concentration. The program itself was good, but the connections I made from it way more so. And that kind of hooked me up into the very beginning of when we were raising and training and starting young dogs. And so while I was in college, I got off campus housing and had a professor who was, very generous with time and knowledge to teach me how to raise young dogs. And so we had, full normal college classes. And then on the side, this hobby turned passion project turned second career of raising and training and selecting young dogs for detection work and raising them up. And then that's just kind of continued and naturally dovetailed into a bit of a breeding program kind of setup. And again, was lucky through places like some of the service dog schools where got into working with some of our progressive genetic tools and looking at things like estimated breeding values. And managing breeding programs and breeding colonies for service dog schools that allowed me to have and access a lot of the tools that we can use to create stronger breeding programs, even on a small scale like I have. So, my breeding program has been going on about 10 years. It was usually a side, again, I can't even call it a hobby, a side second job to my real job. Which for a while was director of canine wellness, which included all breeding program management for a service dog school. So I got to manage their colony, and with that and some of the databases that they have access to and some of the closed genetic pools that we have within service dog stuff, we can look at things like estimated breeding values and again some of our predictive genetics, which I think absolutely at some point will translate over into our performance dog world or our detection world. It'll just take a little bit longer to get there. So yeah, I started there, and then while I was in that position, I had been breeding 1 or 2 litters a year, mostly for either when I needed my next search and rescue dog or for other people that were looking for very similar type things, but kept it very small. I only had a couple bitches. And again, 1 or 2 litters a year was kind of the max of what I did. I got involved and kind of roped into an opportunity during COVID to join something called the Domestic Breeding Initiative, which was formerly the Domestic Breeding Consortium. And so that is a federally funded project. It's under the umbrella of Homeland Security, their Science and Technology Division. And then Johns Hopkins University, their applied physics lab, is the organizational partner. So they handle all of the data collection and research and the organization of the program. And so this program was seeking pilot participants for a effort to evaluate the ability to create a more stable domestic supply of odor detection canines, specifically explosive detection canines. And the reason for this project coming about is the majority, vast majority of the dogs that we get for explosive detection or other odor detection work in both the federal and municipal capacity come from overseas. Most of our dogs are imported. Most
Yeah.
of them come from Eastern Europe and several other countries, but we have a very, very heavy foreign reliance on
Getting
importing dogs for
dogs.
detection work.
Wow.
Yep. So a lot of them come from over across the pond. And so
Are they
federally, this was
labs?
a
Are they labs or
so
different breeds?
labs, short hairs, a couple other pointer-ish breeds, and then our Malinois and Shepherds, our
Right.
Dutchies. Those are predominantly coming from um, somewhere in Europe, or again, somewhere overseas. Sometimes we don't know exactly where they're coming from, but they get imported and they're here, and then we figure out who they are. Um, so there's a really heavy reliance, and some statistics say like over 80% of our dogs come imported from
Wow.
there.
Wow.
So federally, this is a concern point, and they wanted to start throwing some money into how can we have more of those dogs come from here, and not have to import so many, because anything that we're looking from a defense budget, we're, importing that much, that's concerning.
Mm-hmm.
So one of
Kate, let me
yeah
just ask you, what is the reason for the lack of domestic breeding to source dogs from our own country? Like
yeah
what is the cause of that? Is it
I
just lack
there's
of breeding programs that
I think
can?
lack of breeding programs at scale.
Mhm.
Culturally, it's not a well recognized activity or hobby. So if we look at a lot of the European countries, it is very common for someone to raise a dog to sell to an agency. Like that is a normal, in many of these countries, kind of normal place hobby. And also there, when we look at even some of our like agricultural industry, it is a market over there. It is absolutely an
Yep.
industry over there to produce dogs for detection work. And because they've been doing it for so long, they have a scale that they can do it at. And for better or for worse, but there are lots of people over there who have figured out how to do it very well.
Mhm.
And so they have the numbers, they have the mass. If we look at
Uh,
Oh,
we lost Katelyn. Does she know we lost her? Can
I
you
don't
text
know.
her?
Let me text her.
dogs,
Oh, wait, we
oh,
lost you
sorry, can you
briefly.
guys hear me?
Yep, now we can.
Now we
Okay,
can, but we lost
perfect.
you.
Sorry.
So you
Just
might have to
go
repeat.
back, like, yeah, go back a little bit.
Perfect. Okay. So when we look over, in Europe at kind of how they raise dogs, they can raise large numbers of dogs. They have a large number of people. It is a profitable industry over there. They have the
Mm,
scale, the kind of setups and facilities, and just infrastructure in place to be able to raise dogs at scale, and the experience and the knowledge for the most part to be able to
okay.
do it quite well. So just as we might see some of our, other smaller kind of niche agricultural industries over here, dogs are that over there.
Mm.
And when we're looking at federal agencies who are procuring hundreds of dogs a year, they can go over to Europe. They can look at 100 dogs on a clip, in a week-long procurement trip. They can select 60 or 70 or whatever they need, and they can import them and bring them back. That simply doesn't exist over here at scale right now. We
Mm.
don't have facilities where you can go and see that many dogs, or where you can procure that many dogs at one time. And
Mm,
again, part of it over here is cultural. We don't raise dogs like that. We don't raise
right.
dogs en masse like that. Our Just our costs and our infrastructure to set something like that up is astronomical. If you don't
Right.
have a facility vet, if you don't have, that it would be so intangible to be able to raise that many dogs
Yeah,
and
with
sell them for
staff and
profit.
yeah,
Yep,
for
yep.
sure.
Um, so it's not something we have set up really well here. And then our other issue that we have is there is no great access point for smaller scale breeders who may be producing great dogs, to be able to source federally currently.
Mm,
So currently, the federal government, most of our agencies operate on something called bulk purchase agreements, or they have a couple other terms, but they're looking for a certain number of dogs at a time. And usually that number is a minimum of 20 or so.
Mm.
Most vendors and most kind of breeders and people raising dogs aren't raising the 30 dogs required at a time to be able to guarantee that they will have 20 for an agency when they come to pick up at any given time, because our, kind of notice period on those might only be a month or two. So most breeders and vendors can't say, oh yep, I can wrangle together that many dogs for you at one time. And our industry is pretty well isolated to a dozen or so vendors that can do that. And so we miss out on a lot of the smaller guys like me, who I can't have 20 dogs, a guaranteed 20 dogs ready on a
yeah,
month's notice. I don't
yeah.
have that many dogs in my facility. I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to raise that many dogs at a time. Um, and so that would pretty much preclude me from being able to source to our federal agencies.
Right.
Um, so all of those things were addressed in the domestic breeding initiative, kind of project and looking at how can we get either access points for those smaller breeders to be able to sell dogs to federal agencies. How can we improve the quality of the dogs, the longevity of the dogs, the how can we reduce our dropout rates? And so there are a lot of different pieces and facets within that program, and there are people that are absolutely both authorized and educated to speak on the program much better than I can. But overall, I was attracted to the program because it is something where they were looking to both collect data and research to look at the operational effectiveness of our dogs and the development of dogs and see if there were certain markers and behavioral traits that we could look at a younger age to help determine if that dog was likely to wash out or be successful within a program. And then also it provided me a sole source contract. So I have the ability to tell TSA or some of these other agencies that, hey, I have 5 dogs that I'm gonna have ready that are part of this program to look at. And it sets it up where they will come look at and procure and test those dogs. And so now I'm able to sell to federal agencies that prior to that I would not have had access to. And no, my 5 dogs or 8 dogs or whatever it is at a time is not changing the face and providing them all the dogs they need for things. But if we get a whole bunch
Enough
of breeders
people.
who can do
Yeah.
that,
Right.
yep, then that starts to make a difference. Um, and so John Hopkins University, again, their applied physics lab, and they have a super cool team over there that are working on creating this framework to hopefully create a more stable domestic source of dogs for detection work.
Nice.
And so that's kind of it in a nutshell. And then also through that, so they conduct quite a few behavioral evaluations on those dogs. They look at certain biologic samples to be able to genotype and look at if we can start to find some other genetic links with what makes a dog successful and not. And then they're also really great they collect information from all of us breeders on all different scales. So I am a very small partner in that program. There are some partners who are breeding 20 litters a year. There are some partners who are breeding in a kind of more university setting. So it has a variety of different business models within the domestic breeding initiative. And then they also collect data from us from just kind of our experiences and everything. So we submit information for how we whelp litters, why we do it that way, how we raise puppies, why we do it that way, what we're doing with their early development, etc., so that they're able to collect all those data points and help figure out how we can both create more efficiencies and also a more stable structure to hopefully support more breeders to be able to support this federal and municipal demand for odor detection canines.
I love that.
So when
That's really
you
cool.
breed a litter for them per se,
Yep.
right? Do you raise them differently than you would, for example, if you bred another litter and you're like, this litter's geared towards performance
Sports,
people
yeah.
or
Yeah,
sports
Yeah.
people?
Yeah.
tell us like how, from whelping to that by the time they're ready to go, like what that looks like.
Absolutely. And it happens before they're even born. So I will say my litters that we craft and design for performance and even some of our search and rescue homes are usually a little bit different genetically than the litters I am looking at for something like the Domestic and Breeding Initiative project. So when we're looking at selling to both federal and municipal agencies, dogs that are going to have their primary purpose in life be to have a full-time explosive or odor detection career,
Mm-hmm.
I am looking at a dog that is going to be a tool. And I'm looking at a dog that is going to be a tool for a handler that only has the skills and ability that that handler has. And I need a dog whose primary function in life is to do its job. Its primary function in life is not to be a good companion in the house. It is not to be a pleasant dog to be around. It is to do its job and do its job very, very well. And so often with those litters, I will say for the most part, the litters that we are designing for that are not actually the best sport or performance prospects, or even for some of our handlers looking for search and rescue dogs. Those litters do not always produce the same things genetically. So my domestic breeding initiative litters, and with those litters, one of the caveats is we have to keep back that entire litter to raise. So if we designate it for them and we have 9 puppies in that litter, we have to retain the ability to perform evaluations on those puppies throughout their 12-month birthday. And we are to raise most of those dogs, except for some that we may breeding designate, for the intent of being sourced for federal procurement. So, um, we might have, my younger litter is six, so all six are being raised for that purpose. They are going to have to deal with some things in life that are going to be a little bit different than what a pet dog deals with. If they go to TSA, they're going to be going down to Lackland Air Force Base. That's where a lot of the agencies have their training programs. They're going to be in a kennel with hundreds of other dogs. They're going to be primarily living in a kennel. They have to be able to deal with that through their development and training while they're down there. Now, with TSA and a bunch of other agencies, they will end up going home with a handler once they're graduated and paired and all of that. And so that's awesome for them. But they have to be able to withstand the kennel environment during that
Mhm.
training process. They have to be able to withstand having a multitude of different handlers and trainers. They have to be able to deal with having someone that they have no idea who it is, pull them out of the kennel and work them and work at the same level, whether they know that person or like that person or don't. And then they get paired with a handler who often has, quite frank, a lot of them have never held a leash before,
Zero,
never had
zero,
any type of that.
zero dog
And this
skills.
dog needs to be strong enough to be able to deal with a handler fucking up the end of their leash. And the dog goes, screw you. I'm just
That
doing my
like
job. Leave me alone.
whenever you say that, I'm always just like, I just imagine these dogs coming out of the kennel and being handed to some person who's
Oh, it's
never
a shit
even
show half
like
the
walked
time.
a dog
Yeah.
in their life. It's,
Yeah.
oh my God.
Oh yeah, but you need a special kind of dog to be able to deal with someone,
Yeah.
messing with their leash, to be able to, we
Yeah.
really need the dogs to be able to just work despite the handlers
Yeah,
often.
exactly.
And then the
So
handlers' skills will improve and come along, but yeah.
is this just a dog that's just a crackhead? Like it's like all I care about
Yeah,
is
it's an
working.
interesting, yes. So for the most part, now arousal comes into play, and we can talk about like drive and arousal later.
Hmm.
Can't be a super high arousal dog just because of the environment that they have to work in and what the dog has to do performance wise, but must be so innately driven that
Yeah.
we as a handler don't need to bring much to the table to motivate the dog. The dog is motivated intrinsically either by the work and by its reward system.
Yeah.
So like when I'm looking at those litters, possession and toy motivation is a huge thing. I need a dog who doesn't just like toys, but if we have a handler who the most interaction this handler is going to do is just give the dog a ball at the end of its search and
Hmm.
stand there and be blank faced. I need a dog that likes its ball that much that it's going to be willing to work those hours of work just to get its ball and stand there with its ball.
Right.
Because we don't have the handlers bringing a ton to the table. And again, most of these handlers are going to develop great skills and a great rapport with the dog, and it comes along in time. But at first, it's messy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And we need a dog who can handle that. So we're looking for a lot of, again, motivation to possess and kind of maintain control of an item, usually a ball or a tug or whatever. And we're also putting these dogs into programs that are traditionally designed for pointy-eared dogs, our shepherds, our malinois, or whatever, and are based off of a dog who is uber possessive of its toy.
Hmm.
And so the program does not change. I can't play fetch with a dog in the airport. That doesn't functionally work. I can't
Hmm.
play fetch with a dog roadside when it's doing a car sniff for
Hmm.
narcotics. I need a dog that's content to go, okay, did it, and I have my toy, and maybe, it's a toy, it's going to just smush in its mouth. Maybe the handler's going to play some tug. Um, but we need to make sure we're crafting a dog who genetically is going to have the tools to be content with being rewarded in that method. And
And
actually really, really into that.
they need to be resilient,
Yes,
right?
so resilient. They need to be able to handle a lot of inadvertent pressure from the handler. And
Hmm.
again, we're talking detection tasks. The handler can't give the dog the answer. The handler can't direct
Hmm.
the dog to find the information. The dog needs to be confident and self-possessed enough to be able
Confident, yeah.
to do that on their own, and to want to do that on their own. So for detection purposes, especially when we're looking at that side of it, yes, I need a dog who can work with a person and is amenable to a person's opinions and suggestions. But at the end of the day, the dog goes, I am the one actually who knows what my task and job is. Again, you need to follow suggestions, you need to work with me, but the dog is leading the team there.
Yeah.
And so we want a dog who's willing to do that. Now, performance wise, that's not always ideal. And that's not always useful for us for a lot of our performance objectives. So we might want a dog that's a little bit more of a team player. Those team player dogs, though, I might have a hard time sourcing to my first time handler, either federal or municipal, that the handler's going, I don't know, buddy, what do you think? And the dog's going, I don't know either. What are we doing? And it can get messy quick. So I need that dog who goes, screw you, I'm doing my job. Just
Follow
follow
me.
along behind me. Yep. And let's go.
When you talk about the toy, the method of reinforcement with the toy, wanting them just to have like just some sort of just benign act of, here's your toy, we don't need to necessarily go into this active game.
Yep.
Are you starting that out with these puppies right from the get-go, like
developing
that insane just want for that reinforcer?
Yep. So that starts right off the beginning, and how we do it starts kind of right from the beginning. So unlike some of our, dogs that might be going to other agencies like USAR, where we see a lot of really interactive play and a lot of like, oh my God, here's your toy, get it, get it, get it, yay, we're playing with it. We typically try to, when they're even really little, the toy is the most exciting piece of the game, and we actually keep a handler completely out of it. So we do a lot of flirt pole stuff, a lot of the puppy on a harness. The toy is what's kind of being animated. The puppy can create animation in the toy by how much effort it puts into trying to get to the toy. Puppy is then able to work through, okay, push a little bit through pressure, can get the toy, and then when we get the puppy has grabbed the toy and is maintaining possession on that toy and holding that toy, we're working it a little bit more like we might work a dog starting in bite work, where we're, allowing that toy to kind of stay alive. But as soon as you let that toy go, it's going to run away. And so we want to keep that toy in our mouth. We want to continue to possess that toy. It's very self-reinforcing to possess that toy and hold on to it. But while all of this is happening, the handler is not stepping in and going, oh my God, that's so good. Nice job. No, it's a game between the dog. It's a game between the toy and the dog. It is not a game that involves people at first. And so that kind of foundation often helps build the attitude that we're looking for, if the dog is just so motivated to get and possess its toy and not let its toy go. And we're not having to put as much support in. We can always add more, through good, proper play mechanics and being able to create good engagement games with the dog. But quite frankly, when they come out to test my dogs, they're not doing that. They're giving the dog a toy. They're standing there for 30 seconds saying nothing. And does that dog, continue to be interested and motivated in its toy, or does it go, oh, well, if you don't want it either, then I guess I'm going to drop it and move along. We need that dog who's going to be quite content to just go, yeah, I got my toy. Like, I don't really give a shit what you're doing. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then the engagement.
It's the absolute definition of Zaina. She ended up in the wrong place. She should be working at an airport.
Let's see. Well, Zaina's brother, we're planning, I think, this spring to breed. Let's see, they would be Remy grand puppies. So yeah, similar to that. I'm like, that's
Zaina, but Remy is biddable.
He
Zaina
is
is not at all. Like, she is everything you described. She
Lovely.
Is so freaking confident. Like, she owns the planet. Nothing phases her. She will play all by herself all day long as a tiny little puppy. She was gone in my yard entertaining herself, and I went, oh boy, I'm gonna have to work really hard to matter. And the truth of the matter is, I still really don't matter. She's still not working for me. She's working for her reinforcer, right? That's what she's working for.
That's really, and it's so like, that hits the nail on the head. That's what I'm looking for dogs to go into certain roles for professional detection work. I need that dog that is working for its reinforcer, for its job. Because again, I don't get to pick the handler. And a lot of times we look at the handler and go, ooh, that's going to be a little bit rough. We don't get to select that. So we need a dog who can work despite the handler. But, and I'm sure you could speak to it as Zaina, that presents different challenges for our performance sports and our team-based sports. And that's not always the most ideal. And so when we look at the most ideal puppy for a certain task, that does not make that puppy kind of the most ideal for another task or role. They all fit in different parts of the spectrum, and the roles require different temperaments, different behaviors, and different genetic traits. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I was just going to interrupt and say, because this is where I think people can get it wrong when they're looking at puppies, right? And they love the puppy who's, and this is for performance sports, when they want a teammate and they're like, oh no, I want the puppy, the one that's climbing out of the box, the one that's got the toy and doesn't want to give it back, the one that's a psycho. And then like that's where people get it wrong, because I remember when I first met you, Kate, and I was like, oh my God, I love all these dogs. What about these dogs? And you were like, oh no, you don't want those dogs. Those are the jerky asshole dogs.
Yeah. They're really fun for other things.
Well, they look. Well, the thing is they look like they seduce you, because they are like driven, and they are like all the crazy things. Like you want that drive. Everyone goes to, I want drive and arousal. I want drive and arousal. But at the end of the day, then you can end up with a dog who does not give a shit what you think. Hint, hint, Zaina.
Well,
and that, yeah.
They're so tough, right? Like
Yes.
Dana in a search, 300%. If I'm like, oh, I think it's there, she'd be like, you're stoned. It's here. There would be no question in her mind, right? Like that's how she is in life. She's, well, not just her, I should say, all my dogs really, because I get the crackheads. But I also learned a very long time ago, I did field work with field trial people, really good field trial people that taught me how to manage these dogs. And it is management in life 24/7.
Yeah.
People never see that. I tell them stories. I hike. They're like, oh, I do too. I'm like, no, you don't. You are
not like that.
traipsing through the woods for an hour and a half
when you're tired,
up and down trails with your dogs running full bore the entire time, not even staying on the trail. I don't know where they're half the time. They're over here, they're over there. They're bringing me animal body parts. They're leaping up and down walls.
Well, like, and it's not like an optional thing. Like it's the lifestyle
optional
for these dogs. Like I can't not take my dogs out. Like, you know what I mean?
No.
Like they need those needs need to be met for these kinds of dogs for sure. Like you can't just not attend to that for whatever amount of days, else you're going to be royally fucked in the house. Like,
and life skills. Like my dogs are on the dining room table. They think that's hilarious. Get down, right? Why should I get down? I said get down, but I really, you know, like it's not like, honey, no, you're not supposed to get down. She'd be like, you're, you know, like it's managing them in life, like teaching a recall to a dog like that. Like there's so much to it. And they see my dogs in the ring, and I can't tell you how many people, who's your breeder? And I'm like, you don't want one of these.
No, it's not going to be a pleasant dog for you. And you know, it is the management piece, because again, Ever's mom is 12. She should be able to be loose in the house when I'm not home for a little bit. The amount of work I have to go through to contain my dog food, because it has just been a task of hers to figure out how to do this. This dog can go through Vittles vaults. She will go and figure out how to undo any cabinet latch, all of that. And then you come home and she's just food gorged herself and she looks like a little tick. So, you know, it's constant management in these things, because they're just going to continue to find things. And again, they will continue through their whole life to find things to get into. We can't ask for that much persistence and go and intensity in the work and then expect it to just be non-existent in the home. Right. Yes, my dogs right now are all sleeping around the house and they're being good, but they hiked this morning. We've done other things to make it so that they can have this off switch and nicely kind of coexist. And it's still a huge amount of management. And so that dog is not always the dog that people want. And so I was just watching a bunch of my dogs compete in agility over at the Thanksgiving cluster. So that's always fun. And it's nice to be able to see a whole variety of dogs go. And it's so funny because we have quite a few dogs who I laugh at, and they are so fun for the handlers to run, and they are so sexy to watch. They are fast, they are flashy, they are whatever. You know, the dogs that are way more consistent and way more titled and kind of all of that are the ones that are a little bit more moderate. And those are the ones that are being super successful because they care about keeping bars up. They care about watching where their body is.
And that's
they're willing to work with.
And that's the word I use. They care about their pleasing their
handler.
Yeah, exactly.
They want to work nicely in team. The dogs who don't give a shit, who are just flat out, I mean, they're so fun to watch. but they are also way harder to get to qualify. Like
Yeah.
again, I have some awesome handlers who are like, nah, this is just fun and it's an
Yeah.
adrenaline dump every time you run them. But they're not qualifying nearly as much. They're
Right.
not moving up through the levels. They're not going to be your national level team because the dog just doesn't give a shit about the precision involved. It's
Right.
just going to go as fast as it freaking can. And if shit happens, shit happens. But they don't care quite as much about the fact that, ooh, this was a problem. Um, they're just going flat out.
Yeah.
And so, again, fun to watch, but that's not the kind of dog that I'm telling, especially most either novice handlers or handlers who are really caring about competing at a very high level. That's not the kind of dog I think you want for that.
Yeah, and that's where I think people have that misconception because they go and they see all those dogs run and they see that sexiness and that fast and oh my god, I want to do that. And then they just don't understand the flip sides of that coin
Hmm.
with living with them and the fact that they really aren't as careful. They don't really care as much. You're going to struggle more trying to reach
Hmm.
those higher goals that you're looking for at the competitive level because you have a dog that may be fast but isn't gonna care two shits about precision or being careful with its feet, you know?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the other piece of it too is drive, arousal, like managing that. Like it's such a hot topic right now, and the
Yeah.
reason it's a hot topic is because it's challenging and because
Yes.
people innately get a dog and you do not innately know how to manage that, and it can
Mm-mm.
spiral out of control very quickly, and then you can hit a point relatively early on in a dog's career where you're kind of at the point of no return. Like you just can never real. And I've seen this happen so many times. The dog either washes out. Maybe they keep the dog, but it can't do the sport they want, or it can't do a sport at all. And they kind of are like, well, it's the dog, and I'm always like, it's not the dog. It's the trainer and I don't mean this in a derogatory way because like I said it's very complicated and hard. The trainer did not have the skill set and the understanding of arousal and the ability to manage it so that it
Yes.
channels, because I picture it like this giant burst of energy that just explodes all over the place, and if unless you have the ability to take it, squeeze it all into this laser beam, and then when you have the laser beam you have what ultimately everybody sees and wants. If someone has that sexy dog and they have the skill set and they can manage it and control it, which is
Mm-hmm.
rare,
Mm-hmm.
It's
right?
so rare.
Yeah. And
So
so
rare.
that's where I think a huge misconception and huge problems arise because, even when I'll tell some people, I'll be, don't get that dog, don't. And then I look later on, oh, they got the dog. I'm like, God damn it, this is going to be a disaster. Yep, it's
Hmm.
a disaster. And it's because they couldn't manage their arousal. Like and I have a lot of experience with it. I have many dogs with it, and still, like, it's something I'm working on in my competition training, like constantly, and I teach on it all the time. And
Yeah.
I see how hard it is for students to process it, to read it, to manage it, to adjust it in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Especially those who don't have that experience, you know?
Absolutely. And I think sometimes too, it's still so commonplace. We're having so many more discussions now between like what is drive, what is arousal,
Yeah.
and recognizing that they are two separate things.
Yeah.
But I think it's so important to parse out, I'm always looking genetically. They are absolutely two different pieces. Drive, and it's so hard to define drive because we go, is there drive? Is there not drive? Is it intrinsic? Is it extrinsic? Whatever.
Right.
But if we're looking at like, are we calling it motivators? Are we calling it work ethic? What are we calling it? To me it goes it's the desire to complete your task with the maximum amount of intensity and efficiency, and the
Mm-hmm.
efficiency piece is important because if you're not completing your task properly and efficiently, then that doesn't do me any good. And so, for example, right, if we're looking at search and rescue and I am clearing a 40-acre problem and you are running just in circles and for the first 10 minutes not even searching, I don't have the time to stand there for 10 minutes and let you get your shit out and
Mhm.
or go, oh, hey, these first 5 acres we cleared, dog's probably not actually clearing them because he's not working well.
Yeah.
Now he's dialed in and settled in, and now he's
Yeah.
working.
Yeah.
No, I need the work right off the bat. So I want the efficiency immediately.
Yeah.
Um, so
That's a
that's what I'm
great, and
looking at.
that's a great word to use there, that efficiency. Like
Mm-hmm.
I always go
Yeah.
back to, like when I'm talking to people, I always go back to the example of like a working line border collie on a farm,
Mm-hmm.
working
Mm-hmm.
livestock. Like
Yep.
that efficiency needs to be there 100%, because any
Yes.
wasted amount of time is the loss of flock or the endangerment to that flock or that herd,
Hmm.
right?
We
So
can't
it's
have that border
huge.
collie getting so excited running out to go get sheep in the morning that he's scattering them.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Exactly.
before he's even able to get in. Yeah. We need the efficiency right off the bat. And
And what
so,
and
as,
what and what does that drive look like? I always say that too. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like that frenetic behavior that you're seeing that looks fun is not efficient drive. You know what I
no,
mean?
nope.
So,
My human remains dog, right? I may go into environments and what she does, we do a lot of trace evidence stuff for another federal agency, which is really cool. And so I need her to be able to search a threshold as soon as we walk in a room for a drop of blood or a drop
mhm,
of cleaned up blood. So I need her frequency of sniffing to be extremely high. I need her to be working with a great amount of intensity. However, she cannot be doing laps around the room because we're missing something. I need her to
mhm,
have all of that intensity focused into such a tiny little area that she can detail so, so closely, but with such care and intensity
mhm.
that we're not missing those little things. So the behavior is not always this giant explosive expression of behavior, but it is
Right.
an intense amount of intensity and efficiency within the task.
Yeah.
And so that I feel like we can control a little bit more genetically, that level of drive or motivation to me is something that I think we're able to look at and manipulate genetically a little bit more so. But then when we're looking at arousal, I always think of arousal and I just from my education and all of that, I was always taught arousal on the spectrum of like Yerkes Dodson curve. So, the relationship between arousal and performance. And so it's on an inverted bell curve. And when we're really low arousal, kind of we have our or let's see. So we're on an inverted bell, and for those of you who don't know Yerkes Dodson curve, look it up. It's a really simple concept, but it's this idea that there is a optimal level of performance, and that is when a
Mhm.
task is performed the most beautifully that task could be performed. It is efficient, it is precise, everything is coming together. And we've all been there with our dogs where we just go, oh, that just felt good. So
Yeah.
there is that optimal level of performance. And then we have arousal on a separate axis on this kind of chart. And arousal is going to run from the spectrum of very, very low arousal to very high arousal. When we're very low arousal, we are not going to have the highest level of performance. We are going to be operating in a state where performance may be sluggish. We may get distracted. We may not have focus, or we may just have a lack of energy to be able to perform the task.
Right.
As we move towards the middle of that curve, or that middle of that kind of ideal arousal point, we will reach a point in which the performance of the task is as beautiful as it could be. But then we can also go too high on that arousal level where all of a sudden, I mean, we talk about it in dogs all the time. We just don't know always, I think, where it comes from, but they're over the top. So they get over
Mm-hmm.
the top of that curve where performance starts to sharply decline because we
Mhm.
have too much arousal in the situation and no longer is the dog able to maintain appropriate
Optimal.
mental
Yep.
focus. Yep,
Yep.
they're no longer working in that optimal state. So
Yep.
that I always think of as like we're tuning the switch on a radio. Like we go from that like static to a little bit of crackly, like, all right, we're starting to hear some words, we're starting to hear some things, we're getting closer to optimal arousal. You hit that one little bit on the dial where it's perfect and crystal clear. And then as soon as you go a little bit further away from it, we start to lose everything again. And we start to get crackly and then we get into full on static. So I want that perfect point where I can hear everything crystal clear. And that's what I'm looking for. And arousal, I feel like is something that we can manipulate more so than
Yep.
we can manipulate a
Mm-hmm.
dog's ability to have the drive. I think dogs personally, I think dogs are born on the spectrum with they have a maximum ceiling for the drive or the
Mhm.
motivation they are able to put into a task, and we
Mhm.
can build them up to that point, but there's only so much that we can put into that.
Right. And
But
we can
arousal,
we
we
can
can
manufacture that a
manipulate
little
far
bit
more.
more. Yeah, for sure.
Right,
So
right.
what are you let's talk a little bit about like when are you starting to really start to see these differences in arousal drive in your puppies, and like, you know, what are you telling people who are interested in specific litters? Like, let's get into that a little bit because of
Yeah.
how we, you know, I think we've talked about this before a lot, like where we, you know, the three of us even, you know,
Mhm.
where people have that misconception of what they're looking for, what they want.
Right. And so I look at it even, I mean, we start seeing it at 4 and 5 weeks, and we have three
Mhm.
opportunities a day to see it because we see it every day when that litter is having their meals prepared for them.
Mm-hmm.
Or just when mom steps out of the box. And sometimes we start to see it then. We will see the dogs who can be efficient in their tasks or efficient in trying to reach the goals that they are trying to reach. So if we do a lot with like food puzzles and things like that, and not like a physical food puzzle, but like there is an X pen between you and the food bowl, or there is a barrier, or there is a some other stressor that you must either cross or overcome or work around to be able to access your food item. Or we started even younger, or your dam. And we will see the puppies who are in such a high state of arousal that they are expending and just leaking so much
Mhm.
energy on either screaming or spinning or running frantically. And then you see the puppies who get gritty right off the bat and just go, all right, buckle in, let's figure this shit out.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I think we can see that. I tend to see that start even 4 or 5 weeks. My puppies who are going to handle things by just throwing more energy at it, or my puppies who are going to handle things by throwing, that are going to efficiently work through a stressor.
And those
Um,
puppies, Kate, may look a little more moderate than the other puppies.
Usually do. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
They
because I
usually,
mean, people equate like so. I hear this all the time, right? This was a thing, and I very early on, I kind of got sucked into that, but then I'm always like curious, so I always want to know. So I got all this information, then I was like, oh, okay, like quote unquote pick of the litter. I
yeah.
want pick of the litter. I'm getting pick of the litter, or the breeder's giving me pick of the litter, and we feel really good about that, right? It makes us feel special, and like, oh, I'm getting pick of the litter. But like, what is that even? And most people, like I think we mentioned earlier, pick of the litter might look on the surface like that wild and crazy dog, or
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I'm always
Quite
like,
frankly,
dude, like pick of the litter means, to me it means I get to pick the puppy that matches the best to me, that meets the traits I want, which I'm very, very specific on, right? Like I write it out and
yes.
I give it to the person, the breeder.
Yes.
And plus,
Absolutely.
I like, I like to also look at the puppies myself, individual. It's like we can get into
Hmm.
that later, but like that should not be the same puppy that
No.
someone else wants. So they could also be getting quote unquote pick of the litter because they're picking the dog that's best for them
Them. Yeah.
Hmm.
in that
I
litter.
and I quite frankly, I hate the pick of the litter stuff because
I know.
it is so subjective. Is
It's
it
so
the breeder's
subjective.
favorite puppy in the litter, or is it the best puppy for you in the litter? And I think a lot of times it does manifest as just that most explosive puppy in the litter. And
Mhm.
quite
Mm-hmm.
frankly, a lot of times, fuck that puppy. That's usually the
Mhm.
puppy that's giving me the most grief to deal with as I'm
Mhm.
raising them up. They might turn out to be brilliant or they might crash and burn, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a often much more of a roller coaster than we want to embark down. And so I always tell people when they talk to me about they want a puppy and we're looking at litters and whatever, and they talk to me, I say, build me your dream dog. Let's, talk to me. What are the things you like? What are the things you don't like? And we'll go right from the beginning, just when we're starting to even look at size and structure. Do you have certain preferences on how a dog is built, what size a dog is? Different sports are going to lend themselves well to different physical attributes. And hey, I might say after a conversation, I'm not going to have the puppy for you, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to talk about and kind of parse out what things are most important to you. So we're going to talk about the phenotypic stuff. What does the dog look like? How is it put together? What things drive you crazy? I know personally for me, and it's so stupid, I hate a dog with loose eye rims, like a droopy eyed dog. It drives me fucking nutty. I don't care how nice the dog is. I can't live with it in my house. Like, it drives me fucking crazy.
No droopy
So,
eyes.
like,
I
no
like
droopy eyes.
it.
But
Zesty's a little droopy. Isn't Zesty a
there you
little
go.
Yeah,
droopy,
yeah,
Lori?
They can
he's
all
got
be a little droopy.
Yeah,
yeah, he's
and
got a little droop. He's got a
that's
But
little droop.
hilarious.
but for me, it just drives
I'm
me
not
nutty. It
offended.
bugs me
Yeah,
all the time. Like,
that's
it's one of those
hilarious.
things. I know it's going to drive me crazy about that dog. So it's stupid. But for me, I go,
That's hilarious.
Right.
whatever. But some of those little things matter. Some of us have some weird quirks and
It's
don't like
okay.
certain shit. So it is. And then I want to talk to that person about, okay, how do you like to interact with a dog? You know, what is kind of your style of handler engagement, whether you have a dog already or whether you don't and you're just watching other. Are you a super hands-on handler who really is high energy and bringing a ton of, a ton to the table yourself? Or are you a more laid back handler? How do you like the dog to interact with you and behave with that? Because if I have a handler who wants to be, super high energy and they're bringing a lot to the table and they're a handler who is very busy and fast and all of that, in some sports that might be good to pair them up with a dog who is going to match that. In other sports we might need a dog who helps ground some of that out or isn't going to get spun up and over the top by that. So we've got to look at things like that, and then just other things that when I ask people what kind of quirks do you like or how do you like a dog to interact with you, personally I don't like a dog who's going to be easily offended. I don't like a dog who's going to go, "Oh, I'm sorry," if they do something wrong. And that's just my style. I know it will bug and annoy me to work with a dog that is constantly apologizing to me if I have put too much pressure on it. So I choose dogs to live with that aren't gonna apologize because I don't like dealing with that. But talking to that handler about, okay, what are your goals? Yes, let's see where you're gonna go. And that, I look at, okay, let's stack all the cards in our favor. Do we have a pedigree that is proven to produce dogs similar to what you are looking for? Do we have the health clearances and, structure that is going to support what you are looking for? Okay, we have checked those boxes. Now let's talk through individual preferences. How do you want to work this dog? What type of interactions do you like with your dog? What type of reward systems do you like with your dog? All of that. And that's going to help us look at, is this litter going to be a fit? And then within this litter, let's create a diverse wait list so that we don't have every puppy going, okay, I've got 5, Lorries on my list that are all looking for top quality obedience prospects. Because quite frankly, I'm probably not going to have 5 of those. I would rather keep a list and kind of a variety in my people for each litter. That, okay, I have a person that wants a search and rescue dog, I have a person that wants a competition obedience dog, I have a person that wants agility dog, and I can kind of plug and play those puppies and their strengths and weaknesses into the home that they are going to best thrive in. So I always want to talk to that person about, again, what is your dream dog? Dream dogs are not reality, that's imagination, but what would it look like if everything came together and you had everything you wanted? And then let's see, does this litter support genetically that it should fit those goals? And if it does, let's now start to look through those puppies and see if there's someone that supports that. So my pick puppy for one person is going to be very different than pick puppy for another person.
Right.
And even within the same sports, if I have a first time obedience competitor that is really intense and wants to do all the things, but this is going to be their first dog versus someone like you guys, that is going to look like a different dog. And you are going to be able to have different success levels with those dogs. So yeah, pick puppy is hard for me. I'm not something I usually buy into.
Well,
Yeah.
and people should be, the other thing people do, which I've seen this happen many, many times, and it never ends up working out the way they wanted, is when they make an emotional decision, right? They're like, I
Yes.
want a puppy now, and I know what I want. So this has happened. I know exactly what I want. Oh, what do you want? I want this, this, and this. Okay. I'm going to go look at this litter tomorrow. I go, wait, did you even research it? No, I'll walk away. If that puppy I want, I said, okay, I'll
No,
remind
you
them.
won't.
Remember, you said you wanted a puppy that has these traits. Yes, I remember. They
Hmm.
go, they come back with a puppy. I go, does that puppy have these traits? well, I'm sure it'll be great or whatever. I'm like, well, did you test it? And I'll define my definition of testing, which I think may be actually similar or not to yours.
Probably.
But I'm like, did you even test it? Like, did you take it away from the other puppies one by one? Did you do this? Did you? Well, no, blah, blah, whatever. And what happens? Never happy with that dog. They're never happy
Mm-mm.
with that dog because they made an emotional decision. They went in, they saw what we all see. Puppies. Who doesn't love puppies? I adore puppies. They're adorable. I loved Salty. I loved that puppy. I mean, he was everything. I could tell right away. I was like, I would take this dog in a heartbeat. But I wasn't ready to take a puppy. So I wasn't going to take
Yep.
him. Even though he was a puppy that I was like, I know I would be very happy with this puppy. But and I was able to walk away. But like, people look at
Yeah.
puppies, it's not what they wanted, but it's a cute puppy, and the breeder, of course, would like you to have the puppy, and they're like, oh, take the blah, 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 and off you go. And then I'm like, don't complain to me about this puppy because
Right.
this was not. You have to remember, you're going to be with this dog forever,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And do you want to be happy? Like you said, no dog is going to be perfect. Like, I could argue on the one hand that Zesty is a perfect puppy, but on the other hand, he's a horrible dog to live with. The
Yeah.
girls that work for me didn't like him. They just said to me, they didn't even want to potty. They did not want to even take him out to go to the bathroom. Uh-oh, we lost Lori.
Oh no.
I mean, not Lori. We lost Katelyn completely. Like, she's gone.
She's gone. What do we have to do to get her back? Do we have to get out?
She should be able to just get on that link and
in.
jump back in. I just want to write down the time. Because I wrote down the time for that other edit. So I wrote down the time for this edit. She's probably like, these people talk too much.
She loves it. Are you kidding me? She'd talk all day. Okay, I texted her. See what she says. Oh, just trying to figure out what's up. Gonna jump off and back on. Yep, that's fine. She lives in like the freaking boonies. She probably has shitty internet service.
That's like, one thing from doing so much work on the computer. Like, where was I? And at some trial or something, and the internet was terrible, and I was ready to. I was like, I could not live here.
Yeah,
like, I would die because everything took so freaking long that I was like, what the hell? I'm like so lucky because I do kind of live in the boonies for New Jersey, but my internet is somehow, I'm like really lucky. My internet is like really good.
Yeah, and I don't know how people can live like that. I mean, I know people who are like, if I stand in this corner of my kitchen, I have service. I'm like, how do you live like that in this day and age?
Yeah. Well, I guess it also depends on what they're doing, right? Like, if they're not
working, like dependent on it. Okay. She's not responding. She's probably trying to figure it out.
Yeah, maybe she had to run to the bathroom or something.
I just read the fucking I just got that email from the AKC Classic.
Well, that's probably because there's a lot of people. I know, it's really annoying. I'm like, what am I even doing? And then, like, I'm going with Donald, but I'll tell you later. But I'm like, oh God, I should have gone by myself. Oh, I said I'm letting her in, but check.
It's asking me to.
I hit the check. Oh, there.
Okay. Are we back?
All right, you're back.
You
I don't
good?
know what happened. I've even planted myself in the same chair so I wouldn't lose Wi-Fi.
Well,
So
I just said to Petra, I go, she lives in the boonies, so God knows what her internet's like at her
I know
house.
I've planted myself here. I'm like, I can't move because there's places in my house I go that won't work
See?
out. So I've planted myself. I don't know what happened.
It's
Usually
not a
it's
Okay.
big
good with
deal.
this. Sorry
It's all
about
right.
that.
No,
No
please.
problem.
No,
I don't remember.
please.
Wait, Lori, what was I saying?
Zesty is a pain in the ass to live
Oh
with,
Oh,
and your
yeah,
okay.
girls
he's
hated him.
horrible.
Yep.
Yeah, that they
Oh,
won't
yeah.
walk.
All
They
right.
wouldn't
So
walk
I'll
him.
just. Oh, we're still. All right. Yeah. So Zesty is perfect in many ways. He's a horrible pet in terms of like the girls at work hated him. They didn't even want. They like the poor dog. They'd be like, "Crush your legs." No, like they didn't want to potty him because he's just a lot of dog, and he has this like singular mindset, like want to, he's very intense. He's just a lot. Anyway, he's just a lot. So I think Laura, I was talking to you about this or somebody, like all the good traits that I want for the level of performance I want come with
Some shitty,
baggage,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like,
some shitty
um,
life stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
for
like
sure.
because those same traits are who they are. So if I want a dog like you were talking about earlier, some of those working dogs that's confident and independent, well, guess what? They're not just going to be like that when we're training. They're going to
No.
be like that all the time. Or
Right.
if they have a ton of drive and they're always on the edge, they're not just going to be like that in training. They're going to be like that all the time. And
Right.
so I think that's what people don't understand. Or they see these pictures of Zesty, with his hat on and his glasses on and looking cute as a button and all that. And I'm like, yeah, just come spend a day with me and you'll be
Mm-hmm.
like,
Mm-hmm.
holy Hannah, like what is even happening here? you know?
Oh yeah.
And people don't understand that. And I think if they really did, and if all breeders would just be really honest and say, like, look, you can have this, but like Zaina's breeder, I will say, she's not even really a breeder. She's just bred a few litters. She wanted a puppy. She bred, the litter. She was, she knew that Zaina could not first of all, she did not want her because she knew she couldn't handle her. Like she out and out said it. Like, I
Yep.
can't. And I kind of waited, till kind of the last minute to commit to her. I don't know why, but whatever. She was in a panic. She didn't tell me till after because she was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this dog because I don't have another home that could handle her.
Right.
I can't keep her because I can't handle her. So she was well aware
Mm-hmm.
at 5 weeks old, at 6 weeks old, and at 7 weeks old that this dog was not just going to be able to go to any home.
Right.
Right. And
Yes.
she was like incredibly relieved that I took her because she's like, you're probably the only person I know that could actually handle this animal. So, but she's, this is not like bashing breeders in any way, shape, or form, but it's like being realistic about the dogs and then communicating that to the clients, the purchasers, whatever you call us, crazy people
Yeah.
that want dogs, that this may not be the best dog for you. And, as a purchaser, like I have many times walked away from litters, like
Yes.
looked at the litter, walked away and been like, no, the puppy I want is not there. And I've told breeders, like I told Jesse's breeder, I said, this is what I want. I don't care if it's not in this litter because if it's not, I will wait till the other litter. And if the next litter is not till 6 months, I will wait 6 months. And if it's not in
Right.
that litter, I'll wait for another litter. I'm not just taking any puppy. I
Mm-hmm.
want what I want because
Because
they stay with me forever. They live
mhm.
in my house. They sleep in my bed. They're with me practically 24/7. And I compete at a certain level, and I want what I want.
Yes, and not every dog can be that. We can't
Right.
love them to be that. We can't train all of them to be that. They're going to have, they are who they are, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
And we talk about it in other sports, right? Like, I can't go play professional basketball. It doesn't matter how much I train for it. It doesn't matter how much whatever. I am not talented enough and I'm not physically built enough to go do that. Um, so we accept that. Why are we thinking that we can just manipulate a dog that is not the right fit for the task into being this perfect creature? It's an exercise in frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we need to make sure that we are working with breeders and someone who we trust has our best interests in mind and is not just trying to sell puppies or to get the litter all spoken for. And I do understand from the breeder perspective how tricky it can be to go, shit, I'm going to have 3 puppies left. Now, for me, I go, cool. I just raise those for police departments. Like, they're just going to hang out with me and we're going to raise them up and maybe they'll go search and rescue. Maybe they'll go police. Maybe they'll go federal. Like, let's see what that dog wants to do. I have the staff and the facilities to go, meh, I don't have the right home for this puppy right now. Then it's going to stay back with me. Not an
Mhm.
issue.
Mhm.
But for a lot of breeders, that's very tricky. We can't just look and go, oh, I'll just raise an extra 2 or 3 dogs this year. Like, that's a
Mm-hmm.
lot. Um, and so we feel pressure to need to get all these dogs into the right homes. And I mean, I see it. I talk to bitch owners sometimes. I have a few boys that we offer out at stud. I will talk to bitch owners. Okay, what are your plans to place this litter? And if they go, well, I have some performance inquiries and then, some active pet homes and some whatever, a lot of times, and I have several boys, I'll go, okay, never mind then. Like, this is just not going to fit that because this dog is typically going to produce a dog that is not going to be super happy as an active home or just an
Mhm.
active pet home. And if that's where you're placing, then I think you need to reconsider your stud choice because we're going to produce dogs that the owners are going to struggle with and the dog is going to struggle.
Mhm.
And perhaps working in the pet side where we do pet boarding and we do pet training too, and I have a crew of awesome pet trainers that work with me. We have to see the consequences of that, of someone who got a dog that they were told would be great to be an active hiking companion, an active, fun companion that way, and now they are dealing with over arousal behaviors, reactivity,
Mhm.
whatever it may be that usually it
Mm-hmm.
manifests as,
Yep.
because they do love to hike, but they love to hike on Saturday once a week. And then
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
dog,
Yeah.
what does the dog do the rest of the week? And most of
That active companion animal thing is a farce. I
it
hate it.
really
I hate it because you're just
is.
like, to me, it's like you are setting these people up to fail. Like active companion. Like, what is that?
And then we see those people fail and how frustrating it is
Mm-hmm.
for the dog and the human. And, we see these people that go, this is not the dog that they wanted. And they might love it still. And most of them will make it work. But it's not the
Oh my
lifestyle or the
god.
dog they wanted. And
Yep.
No,
why
I'm
are we
just
placing those
laughing.
dogs
I'm just
there?
laughing because it's like
I
my
Oh,
have a
dog.
yeah.
boarding
Like
kennel.
I come in the living room and like Salty's on the fucking table, like the fucking end table, like just standing there, like they're not normal.
No. No,
I
and living with these dogs is what it is. If you want to see fucking chaos right now, I'll open my back door and holy
Right.
shit, the dogs that will come from everywhere and smash themselves out the door. They have door manners. Do they give a shit? No.
No.
Because oh my God, the door got opened and maybe we're going to fucking do something.
That's,
Oh
It's
oh my
not
God.
god.
it's
Zesty's
not
like that
fun.
every time I get up. It's
Oh
like
Yes.
yeah.
he'll be in
What are we
a
doing?
dead sleep. I get up.
Yes.
He leaps over the like literally jumps over the couch, runs to the hallway, and he stands. Are you going up? Are you going in the kitchen? Are you going up in the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen? Then
Mm-hmm.
I head in the kitchen. He's like, "Are you going out the door? In the door to the basement? Yeah. Where are you going? Where are you going?" I'm like, "Oh my God." Like
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
even
Yes.
notice it anymore. It's normal. But I do. I also have a boarding kennel, and for a while when I had my rehab there, we also did pet training. And like that's when you would see these dogs come in for training, these poor owners, like well meaning,
Mm.
pulling their hair out, these dogs,
Mm-hmm.
a complete train wreck. And it's
Yep.
all because it's a complete mismatch, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And now we're trying to help them. And my trainer, who is young, would come look at me like, who thought that? I'm like, look, who thought this was a good idea? I'm like, I know, but
Yeah.
all we can do now is do the best we can to help them out. But is it ever going to be ideal? Of course not. It's never going to be ideal because it was a mismatch to begin with, like
From the
right out of
beginning.
the
Yeah.
Yep.
gate,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yep. And that's
And
where I will tell
yeah.
people, I mean, I get people who inquire a lot. And as a breeder, it's so sometimes hard to turn those away that you could hear this awesome home and they have property and they have a pond and they want to do this and that with the dog and they want to whatever. I know one of my dogs, it might be a beautiful piece of property. They might love to take their dogs on walks. They might love to do all these things. It's not the right home. And I will turn
Mhm.
down those homes. I will absolutely help. I have a few other breeders that I will refer them to. And I go, here, this person produces dogs that you are going to really enjoy. But they don't want the crack addict that because there's a pond in the backyard and they go to move any bit towards the backyard and that dog is just screaming and racing into the
Mhm.
pond no matter the time of year. um, they don't want that dog. And they might think
Right.
they want that dog, but that dog's not actually going to be super enjoyable for them to live with. It's going to be a lot more management than what they want to put into it. And most people want a dog because they want a dog to enrich and bring joy to their life.
Right.
Some of my dogs do not bring joy to my life. Like working them might bring joy to my
Mhm.
life,
That's
but living with them does not bring joy to my life.
you know,
And that's
and I always like I go back to I'm like there's like winters where like I check the weather and I'm like fuck, like it's gonna fucking ice for 3 days. Like what? I go to a panic. You know,
yeah.
like where you're like, holy shit, how am I gonna get these dogs out? How am I gonna live with these dogs? Like that's a thing. That's the reality of living
Well,
with them.
but there are, so now that we frighten everyone away, they'll never get
Yeah.
a working lab again. I mean, but it's all a matter of what's being bred because zeal is the polar opposite, right?
Yep.
Zeal is, I call it lazy. You know, I'm like, he's the laziest dog on the planet in life because he is perfectly content to literally spend the entire day on his bed chewing his bone. Now, when I work him, he's all in. When I hike him, he's like full 13 and a half hour, 10 minutes into the hike, he's still running. Like he's
Hmm.
been running the whole time, right? But I come home, he's he's affectionate, he loves people, he
Yep.
was well mannered. The dog is like the perfect dog. He never did a naughty thing ever in his entire life. Like not even as a puppy, he did not do a single naughty thing. He was like an people would look at him and go, "He's an old soul." Like
Oh.
he
Aw.
I have pictures of him as, but like he would be loose at work. I'd be having WrestleMania with some crazy dog that didn't want to be restrained that I need to work on. And he'd just sit there calmly and look, like
Oh.
watching, like, why is this dog being so crazy? I don't
Hmm.
understand. So they're there. It's a matter
Yes.
of you need to understand the difference and you need to be like a really smart shopper and
Yes.
look for that dog because that
Mhm.
dog will fit your lifestyle better. You'll be much happier with that dog and you'll still be able to work with that dog. This dog can still be very competitive. You can still be very successful with the dog, but um it's just going to be it's just a different experience, right? And then you're like, well, why would you? I mean, Zeal, I like the crackheads because it matches my personality. Because
Right.
you know, and Zeal had his own challenges. All dogs have challenges when we're training them. They were
Hmm.
just very different. So people just, I think we circle all the way back around to what you said at the beginning, which is you need to have a list, right? You need to have a clear understanding of exactly what you want, not some vague concept of pick of the litter, air quotes around it, right? Like you should be able to write down and say, this is what I want in life, and this is what I want in my working dog, and this is realistically my skill level, because you have to be realistic about that. And this
Absolutely.
is my lifestyle, and this is realistically the amount of time I can dedicate to training and to exercising my dog and to life management training skills, etc., right? Because if you
Absolutely.
don't have that, it's like you're walking into a forest with zero direction. Like you're just standing there in the woods. Like I don't even
You
know where
don't
I'm
have the
going.
structure, and you're at the mercy of just whoever is able to sell you a good story or sell you a
Mhm.
good, description. And, though it's so icky to think about because it's animals and it's a welfare thing and all of that, we do have to go at the end of the day. Breeders are trying to sell you a puppy. you are the consumer who is trying to buy a puppy. If
Mm-hmm.
you have a specific list, if you were going to buy a car and had your checklist of all the things you wanted, you would not be sold an emotional story to get a car that is a completely different make and model and year than you wanted,
Mhm.
because you need a car that is going to meet your list. Um, with a puppy, I think it's so much easier to get sucked into the emotional side of, oh, it's super cute, or there was some
Mhm.
crazy story behind the litter, or there was, just some other thing that made it meant to be. And then we just throw our list away completely and go, this is what we need, this is what I'm going to get, and make that a decision based on either impulse or emotion. There are breeders out there. There are so many breeders of dogs. You can find what you are looking for if you wait long enough and you are
Yep.
persistent enough in your search. And you have to do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And
I
be
mean,
patient.
my second dog I ever got, like I knew nothing, right? And so anyway, we go to this breeder's house and she starts telling us, so I wasn't doing performance. So she starts telling us about champions and pedigrees and showing us glossy pictures in this magazine, and we were like, wow.
Yep.
And then she shows us this litter, and they're so darn cute. Of course, they're cute. They're puppies, right? And we're like, oh, okay. So, long story short, we buy the dog. Come to find out way later, the dog was dysplastic.
Oh.
Right? But we got, like, I didn't know, right? I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
know. And
Yeah.
so
Mm-hmm.
talk about, like, I got sold a story, right? Because I didn't educate myself. I didn't know what I wanted. And I was just looking for a pet. Not that that makes it okay, you know, but case in point, like, I got distracted by the fancy magazine cover and the letters and the behind the in front of, like, probably in front of the dog's name, I don't even remember, champion
Yeah.
this, whatever. And the story she sold about, like, how great this litter was and all this stuff, like, and we just believed her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, would I have believed somebody, like you said, if I went to buy a car just on the word alone, or something? Probably not. But I don't know why. We just probably, because she's an authority figure in the sense that she, quote unquote, knows what she's talking about, and
Mm-hmm.
I, quote unquote, didn't. This was pre-internet. I'm old. In all fairness to myself, it's not like I could have gone and Googled it, right? But nowadays, for sure, you could at least Google health clearances and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's
Absolutely.
just an example of, like, kind of not being the most educated consumer, not getting all the information first, and then
Mm-hmm.
being discriminating, right?
Yep.
Like, and then getting innocently sucked in, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
When
And I think
what?
the other
Go
one
ahead.
other point I want to bring up before we get off that topic is, the breeders also only know what the breeders know. And so we can see there are some phenomenal breeders who are fantastic at producing field champions and produce these beautiful field champions and consistently do so and have top pedigrees for doing so. That's great. Some of them have a good awareness of what other sports entail. But if you go to some of those, if I went to some of those as a detection, looking for a detection prospect, and I said, I want you to sell me your puppy that's going to be the best fit for detection, and just left it at that, do they actually know what I'm looking for in a detection
No.
prospect? Do they
Mm-hmm.
know what I need my final product to be? Do they
Right.
know what I need, what traits I need most strongly from my dogs? And does the sport that they are competing in or trialing dogs in, which is a completely different sport, does that sport actually reward the traits that I am looking for?
Mm-hmm.
Because often there can be some crossover generalizations, but it's not fully exactly the creature I'm looking for. And we don't have breeders for the most part that are breeding like specifically for competition obedience,
Right.
working labs just for competition
Hmm.
obedience. So we do need to look at breeders that are pulling from other working disciplines, but then we need to be able to articulate, hey, I am doing competition obedience. These are the traits that I need, and this is what is most important to me. And we need to make sure that breeder understands how those traits are going to affect the dog, the final product, your training methods, all of that. To be able to send you the dog that is actually going to work for you. Because if we
Mm-hmm.
just go, oh, they're looking for a competition obedience dog, so they're looking for a calm dog that's very biddable and a little soft and listens to directions well, that might not be the dog at all that you need it to
Mhm.
be, but
Mhm.
that's the assumption or the stereotype, and
Yeah.
or just, what they think. And so we can't just say I'm looking for a competition obedience prospect and leave it at that.
Yeah.
We need to be able to articulate what traits are important, why they are important, and then as the consumer we need to be honest if that litter is going to meet that needs or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny that you said that. As soon as you said that, I went, oh, I'll bet you that's why way back I learned to sit down and articulate exactly what I want because I was getting my dogs from field trial breeders and I knew they had no idea what I was doing.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Like,
Mhm.
none, and no idea what I was looking for in a dog and all these things. And I knew some of them wouldn't even sell me a dog, which I was fine with. But I knew that I needed to be very clear and able to say, this is what I want out of a dog. Because if exactly like you said, if I just said I do obedience, they would have absolutely no idea
Right.
what
Yeah.
I wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is like, I think, I don't know if you agree, like most breeders have their, their disciplines that they're primarily breeding for. Kate, it's really like we're super lucky with you because you did do all that stuff. Like you did obedience, you did agility, you
Oh,
did
not on your
breed. So,
levels, but
but
I'm lucky
you,
to have friends like you guys who do it
yeah,
on
and
that level and can educate
yeah,
me.
and educate you. But I really think like it's super important for people going to look for puppies. Like if you're not sure, if you just don't have the experience, like I don't have as much experience as Petra, like find somebody who can help you. Absolutely, that was a game changer. Like when Petra was able to come with me and pick out Salty.
So have you talked to people about how we picked out Salty and what happened
Well,
to
no,
Salty
so
there?
that's what I really want to get into. But no, because what happens is, right, all right, so way back, when I first started looking at litters, just out of sheer curiosity for myself, for other people, whatever, like it was like, oh, we do this formal testing, right? Like, and then other people develop these other tests, whatever. So we would do these tests. But then I had a client in my rehab facility, and she was the director of the Seeing Eye. And so we
Hmm.
talked about, and it was really interesting. She said those tests, she says we don't use them. They're not predictive of whether or not the dog is going to be successful in the program. She goes, what I find was more successful was I was just able to look at the puppies myself, and I could tell.
Yep.
And I said, well, how could you tell? She goes, well, we're just looking at behavior. And then she said the reason she doesn't think the tests were effective is because the people administering it are still interpreting behavior and they may not be interpreting the behavior correctly. And I was
Yes.
like, oh, I get it. And I said, yeah, so like really, I don't need to do the test. I need to just have the ability to read the dog and read the dog's behavior. Right. So, yes. So, a couple things. One is, I believe this. I was taught this. I don't know if there was a study on it or if it's just hearsay. In my personal experience, again, that's all it is, just one of one, me, right? Like what you see with the puppy between 5 and 7 weeks old in the litter in the pack is not the same as what you will see when you take them out one by one
Agreed.
away from their litter mates and optimally in a spot they have not been in prior. So, if they've never been in this room or this building or in this yard, take each puppy individually out one by one. And so what I started doing after a while was I would just take it was like completely informal, right? Like I would just take that puppy out and we just walk through wherever we were, and there would maybe be some obstacles there, whatever. It wasn't like even that formal, and I would just observe each puppy. And when you would take each one by one, you will see a clear difference in their personalities, a clear difference in their behaviors. And all in essence, all I'm doing is looking at this puppy's behavior, right? So with Salty, so we you know, when they're in a group, they're all cute. They all, whatever. And Lori was like, I like this girl. What was the pink or the
Mm-hmm.
purple one? I like this
The
girl.
red
And I'm
one.
like,
Yeah.
Red.
and in my head, I'm like, how do you even know?
Uh-huh.
Like, because it
Uh-huh.
was in a puppy pile, right? So I said, well, I'd like to, even though Lori was claiming she didn't want a puppy out of this litter, I said, if Kate's amenable, I'd like to take them out one by one and take them in a spot they haven't been. So we met at Katelyn's house. The puppies were all in a big crate, and Lori wanted. I know Lori likes her girls, right? Which is
Yep.
fine.
Yep.
So we took out one girl, and basically the puppy comes out of the car, put it on the floor, and then we all walked through her yard. We walked past a kennel with some barking dogs. One of them is a big shepherd, rah, 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 right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we all just walked together, and then there were some woods and a little rock wall, and then there were some tables and chairs and whatever. It was nothing fancy, nothing.
Nope.
Maybe there was a toy laying around, a dirty old toy, like in the yard. This was completely not formal, right? And I'm 300% fine with that, because all I
Yes.
do is read dogs for my job, right? So put the girl down and we start walking. Is the dog constantly underfoot? Okay, that's a dog that's really going to rely on the handler, right? It's like it's not confident enough to go explore the environment on its own. It wants to be by you. Is that good? Is that bad? It just is, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
is how this dog is. Does the dog go? The dog goes rah, 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 and the puppy goes ah, and then it goes, oh, it's just a barking dog. I'm good. Is that bad? Is that good? It just is what it is, right? It's a
Right.
stable response. I'm just observing behavior, right? And then you take out the next puppy and you see the difference. Oh, this one's a little more confident. Does this puppy take off and go sayonara? And you're like, puppy, puppy. And it's like, yeah, I could care less about you. All right, well, it is what it is. This puppy's going to be extremely independent. It's very confident, has no problem exploring the environment. It's not that concerned about you,
Mm-hmm.
right? Might be good for some people, might not be good for other people, right?
Right.
Like it
But
is
like you
what
said, it
it is.
just is what it is. It's
It
not
is
a
what it is.
quantifying this is a bad puppy or a good puppy. This is just who this puppy is. And now we
Mm-hmm.
figure out where that puppy should go.
Right. And then so we looked at the different girls. Now I know what I would want in a high end, and by high end I don't mean it like in a snooty way. I mean it in a dog that's going to be asked to do work that's extremely complicated, because we don't just want to go to obedience competitions. We want to go to tournaments, right? We want to go to high pressure situations where this dog is going to have to perform over and over, day after day, under super challenging conditions, and
Hmm.
hold it together, right? So I understand exactly what that requires, right? And I know that's what Lori wants. So that's what I'm looking for when I'm looking at these puppies, right? And so we're looking at the girls, and I'm like, the one girl, I liked her, but I'm like, I'm not sure if this is what I would want, right? For what that kind of situation. So we looked at the three girls, and then Katelyn snuck out a boy, right? And
Tried to sneak out a boy.
He did.
puts him on the ground. He's on the ground. I don't know how long, Caitlin.
Oh, it's 3 seconds. Right.
And I'm
Yeah,
like,
literally.
oh my God, I love this puppy. And Lori's like, you just like him because he's a boy. And I'm like, I
I'm
watch. I go, just watch. And I'm looking at Caitlin. Caitlin's like, uh-huh.
And
right?
I'm over here trying to hide the fact that he has a penis. I'm
I
like,
know, and
no,
I'm
Lori
like,
wants
wait
a
a second.
girl.
I'm like, Kate, what do you do? What is this? Is this a boy? You're like, well, yeah.
Yeah, and
Maybe.
then so we start what is it? This second he hit the ground, he stands there and he goes, "I own the world."
Yeah.
He's like
Mm-hmm.
confident, his chest is out. He's got a certain amount of twitch, which means it's like drive that we talked about, right? Like he's going to work all day and all night for you. Now, I also can tell pretty quickly this is going to be a handful.
Yes.
Not anyone can handle this dog. I said this dog is going to fight you on certain things. It's like especially as they get older,
Mhm.
that's in him. I can see it now. The big bad dog barks at him. He stands there, looks at the dog, and is like, "Who do you think you are barking at, dude?"
Yeah.
Like, no startle, no concern, holds his ground, like, "Puh, you ain't scaring me." Right? Just super confident, but checks in, which I like a lot,
Mm-hmm.
right? And fearless, just has this thing about him where I'm like, these are all the traits that I would want and would need in a puppy that's going to be doing the things that Lori's going to ask him to do. I also know that Lori hikes her dogs a lot. I know that she understands arousal and can manage it, and all these things. So because I can see in that short amount of time, not just who this puppy is now, but who this puppy is going to be, pros and cons, right? Because, like we said, with the pros come some cons. Like with a
Absolutely.
dog that humps everything under the sun, well, he's humping it not just because he wants to have sex with it, he's humping it because he's like, dude, I own you,
Mhm.
right? And he's going to try and hump you and own you. Like that is going to happen,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you better be the kind of handler that knows how to handle that and can nip that in the butt. Like, and so all these things. So I am looking at personality traits, dog behavior, because dog behavior is dog behavior. And like we said, like who this dog is now is who this dog is going to be. You're not going to change this dog and turn it into oh, let's just cuddle on the couch all day, right? He is who he is. And
Right.
now, not that some of those other puppies that I saw would be great performance prospects with different handlers, right? Where they could
Absolutely.
be extremely successful. The handler could be super happy with them. The dog could have a super fulfilling life. It doesn't mean that Salty was quote unquote pick of the litter. He actually probably was not, in terms of if you look across the board of like the
Mhm.
average person that's looking to buy one of your puppies, like, because he's kind of off the charts, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
He would
Most
actually be a puppy for me in many situations. If I didn't have someone like a Lori in this case, I would go, this is not a puppy I'm confident placing out. He's staying back with me to raise up and probably to go into a detection career because he's going to get returned. He's going to be a
Yeah.
problem. Um, and that's what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, and so it's anyone, if you really think about it, anyone could do that, right? As long as you can objectively read dog behavior. Now you must be objective, right? Because again, we
Right.
have the cuteness factor. We have the puppy that's going to go, "I love you, I love you, I love you." Right? Like you have to be able to be objective. And if you can't, bring someone with you that is just going to look at behavior and
Mhm.
read behavior, right? Because that's all we were doing. And Caitlin, that's what you're doing too, right? In
That
essence.
is what absolutely. So I don't do like a formal temperament test with my puppies. It is all just putting them in new situations and novel situations individually and seeing how they respond. And also looking at them and playing with them individually because that tells me so much more than how they play in the litter. And
Yeah.
those things kind of combine to look at how is this puppy interacting with the world? How are they interacting with me? How are they interacting with a motivator? And then we do also have to look at the structural point too. If you're telling me you want a, high-end agility prospect, and I don't send you
Mm-hmm.
a dog with the proper shoulder angulation to be able to handle that, then I don't care how talented the dog is. It's going to break down and you're going to have
Mm-hmm.
issues. So we have to look at that piece of it too. And it is very hard. It can be very hard to find the ideal. And then I think just the other piece to keep in mind for people, if we are looking at a litter, I have a good friend right now who has a puppy that got given to him from kind of show low level hunt test type lines. And the puppy looks phenomenal, or looked phenomenal as a puppy for kind of a detection prospect. It was checking all the boxes. I have to have some reserves because genetically, I go, both parents and the whole breadth of pedigree through here is not capable of doing this job. Maybe this dog is a genetic anomaly, and it is, but it gives me some red flags. And that puppy now is 7 months old and flattened out and is going to probably stay flattened out because it looked really cool as a puppy, but it is maturing to what its genetics are allowing it to mature to, and that's not the level that we would like it to be. Um,
Kate,
so
just explain what flattened out is to some of our listeners who may not really
yeah,
understand that term.
Yeah, so the puppy it had enough arousal when it was younger to mask, to kind of carry it through, and make it look pretty flashy when it was a younger puppy in some tasks. And now that it's maturing out, we're starting to see the dog is pretty quick to quit and give up in situations where we need it to kind of push through. It will not always be super resilient to stress. It's pretty amenable to go, that's just not, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. That's too much effort to have to put in to do that. Um, and y- it is what it is. We can't pretend it's a surprise. Both
Right.
parents were very laid back, mellow, easy dogs to be around, not dogs that were putting a ton of effort into any type of task. Um, and this puppy is going to mature to probably be a little bit more than its parents, but not genetically what we're looking for a detection dog. So,
Right. Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I think it keeps circling around to, you need to know what what you need to know exactly what you want and what you're going to do with the dog, right? Because like different tasks require different personality traits or different skill sets or different levels of drive. Um, and so you need to be clear, like this or these are the sport or sports I'm going to do.
Right.
This is
mhm.
what's required for those sports. And if you're not sure, don't talk to everybody, but talk to some really experienced people, or, some of people that have the ability to be objective and say,
Right.
okay, these are the traits that I need for this sport. And you need to trust them, because I can't tell you how many times people have asked me and I've said, and I pour my heart and soul into like trying to help them. Then they go and do what I didn't said not to do. And then I'm like, oh, good Lord. And right. Because you need to know exactly what you're going to do, what this dog needs to do, what your lifestyle is. You need to be honest about it. You need to be objective about it to be fair to yourself and to the animal,
Right.
right? Because otherwise, you're just setting yourself up for a dog's lifetime of frustration, disappointment, which is going to absolutely affect your relationship with the dog. And it's going to affect the dog, and it's going to impact the dog's life, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah.
It's going to have an impact on that dog. So, really, and we're responsible for their well being, right? Like, once I commit to buying a dog, no matter what, I had a dog that I purchased, I did all my due diligence, the whole 9 yards. Turns out the dog just chemically was not wired right, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
guess what? That's my dog. I
Right.
kept that dog until the day he died, and I had to adapt and adjust and do. I mean, I have thanked the universe a million times for bringing that dog to me, because he would probably have been euthanized, or who knows what would have happened to him, because he was so complicated. but I was in a unique position that I was able to deal with it. And I did agility with him. I hated agility with a passion, but it was like the only thing like he could do, and he loved it more than life itself. And he had all these unique needs that I had to deal with and figure out, and he had dietary issues, on and on and on. Like, but in my mind, I that is my child. I am committed to
Yeah,
this thing. And so even with having done everything, that's what I ended up with. Okay, fine. I pivoted and I adapted. But a lot of people can't pivot, adapt, or they don't have the resources, they don't have the not whatever the case, you know. And so you should put a lot of effort in and a lot of objectivity into trying to get the best possible match so that you and the dog are happy together.
absolutely.
100%. 100%. Absolutely.
And it's just as
Definitely.
much your responsibility as the breeders. Like, I think sometimes we give all the power away to the breeder. And it's not that, like, look, I have been extremely fortunate that other than that pet dog that was dysplastic, that I've had exceptional breeders. Um, that, but part of the reason I went with them is because I had conversations with them and we talked about what I wanted, and I made sure that they heard me and that they understood me and that we
Mm-hmm.
were on the same page.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think we have to be able to have that mutual trust and respect in both directions, where I can respect that you know what you are looking for in a puppy, and your traits that you're saying are important to you are important to you. And because that matters. If I'm just discounting and going, oh, yeah, 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 that's what you're saying, but meh, this is what I think needs to happen, that doesn't help the situation. You are
Right.
a competent and informed buyer, and you deserve to have your list of things that is respected, and that list should be met. And we also need to have breeders who are willing to admit when they do not have a puppy that is going to fit that situation, and be able to say that and articulate that, and not feel the pressure to have to send this person a puppy just because they have to send this person a puppy. Um, it can be a funny situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, at the
definitely.
end of the day, we're all human, right? Like, and we're
Right.
dealing with humans. So breeders are humans. And you know, the seller's a human, the buyer's a human, right? And like with everything across the spectrum, there are going to be people that are providing a good service and people that are providing a poor service, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are going to be buyers that are very experienced and very knowledgeable, that are confident and self assured, and there are going to be those that aren't. And if you're not, then you should get help. Like, that's the way I look at it, right? Is like, if you're not, like, way back when I didn't know, I wanted to learn, right? I picked people's brains constantly. Just like this my friend from the Seeing Eye. I was like, "Oh, like, I just wanted to pick her brain all day and all night, not just about puppies, about everything." Like,
Yeah.
right? So that's how we should be. We should be endlessly curious.
Yeah.
We should be endlessly trying to get more information. And if we don't have it, or we don't feel confident, or we're not self assured, then find somebody who is, take
Yeah.
them with you, let them help you.
Right.
Right. Like, who doesn't want to go look at, like, I'm a sucker, like, oh, will you come look at, sure, I'll come look at puppies. I don't care. They're puppies. Like, who doesn't want to spend the, a few hours or a day, like, hanging out with puppies?
Puppies.
Like, they're
Absolutely.
puppies.
Absolutely. Ugh. Well, this has been great. I think
Wait, oh my God,
we're way
Caitlin.
over. Kate's like, oh
Because, like, I actually have a
Oh no,
life
we're
and I have
good.
things I have to
No.
do.
Oh
boy.
no, I'm actually planning my next hike of the next dogs that need to go get
There you
out and
go.
do things
Yeah.
There
so
you
that we
go.
can have sanity. Yes, but that's
Thank
no,
you
it's
Well,
all
for
we
good.
got
This was
everything.
fun.
it
Yeah, it
was
was
fun.
awesome.
It
Thank you
is.
so, so, so much. There's so
Yeah.
much good information.
So
I
much.
know it's going to help a lot of people. So
Definitely.
we really
No,
appreciate, and people support the juniors, because look what it produces. So if you see
Absolutely.
juniors
Support
out there,
juniors.
support them, because this is what we get out of it, and then that gives
Absolutely.
back to our
To our
dog community.
yeah,
Absolutely. It all
absolutely.
comes full circle. And we don't get people that are coming into this industry, just young people coming into this industry should be supported. And sometimes you may not realize how just a kind word or giving someone
Yeah,
the opportunity to talk to them after they come out of the ring, or even to get to watch you train your dog or to play with some of these higher end dogs, that makes a difference and that makes an impression. And giving those opportunities are really what opens doors. And sometimes to really cool places. So it's
yeah,
great to do.
yeah. Well
Yeah.
said. Thanks, Kate, so
Thanks,
so
Kate.
much.
Thank you
Can't thank
guys
you
very
enough. It
much.
was
This was
great.
fun.
It
Absolutely.
was
Thank you
fun.
guys.
All right,
All
go hike
right.
your dogs.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
everybody, go hike your dogs, and good luck with your next puppy.
That's right.
That's it.
All right, thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.